If you're like me, you're probably old enough to remember when you'd go to the grocery store, maybe shop for your parents or just yourself a few decades ago. You'd hit the butter aisle to go buy, well, butter, or if you, before you knew better, margarine. And yes, there'd be butter, but it was more expensive than margarine, and it was dwarfed by the selection of various margarine options, whether it was the simple sticks of margarine or the big crock or the big bucket of country crock margarine. And you may have noticed in the last several years that while margarine is still very much present at the grocery store, it's been being slowly replaced by an increasing amount of butter. That even at a lot of discount grocery stores now, ones that will cater to the poor part of the population, that you'll begin to see Kerrygold butter or sort of knockoff varieties of Kerrygold butter available. And that is a good thing. We've seen an increased demand for butter and a decreasing demand for margarine. And there's a number of good reasons for that. You hear variations on this all the time, and I think this is the main reason for this. That the first variation is you'll hear people say that, margarine is one ingredient away from being plastic. Then the other version is margarine is one molecule away from being plastic. One or the other is true, and they both make the point that the things are so close to being plastic that you're better off using margarine to lubricate a door than you are to put it into your body. That is just objectively true, and I will give you a personal testimony on this. Long before I was awake to the dangers of seed oils, which margarine is mostly made out of, I had found that margarine was something I just couldn't stomach very well. I didn't exactly have much of a say on what I ate as a child, and growing up, my mom, before she became sort of awake to the margarine just not being good for you, when we were a kid, we'd have, mac and cheese made with margarine. And I would always get an upset stomach if there was something with margarine in it. Now, I haven't knowingly consumed margarine in many years, but I would imagine the same is true today. In fact, probably because I have tried to keep seed oil consumption to a minimum, to zero if I can, the effect on me would probably be worse than it is now. As an aside, some of you may have noticed that your sensitivity to carbohydrates, the longer you do a ketogenic or carnivore diet, if you do accidentally or intentionally, when you fall off the wagon, consume carbs when you're not supposed to, your body sensitive reaction to it is much more heightened than it would have been before. Or maybe you're just more aware of it. But either way, I suspect the same is true for seed oil consumption, and especially margarine. It always gave me an upset stomach. It'd probably be the same, if not worse, now. And so it's really refreshing to go to the grocery store and see not just the store brand butter and then, a couple of, of the bigger name brands, but several small brands and including imported brands. There's a grocery store near me run by an American Indian tribe that has imported Irish butter. And they don't have a lot of fancy items at the store, but there's a few items there that really are surprising. And other than Walmart, they are the most keto-friendly store in my town. And in some ways, they have things that Walmart doesn't carry. It's actually remarkable. And one of the reasons I like to shop there, I started shopping there more often to buy my wife stuff for her keto diet. And I actually started buying some meat from their meat section again, as a sort of a thank you for their being so good on the carnivore diet and good on ketogenic items. And it was really remarkable to see an Irish butter that was actually imported, a very clean, grass-fed Irish butter. Was it more expensive than normal butter? Yes. Now, you may have noted that part of the reason, though, I think you see better butter and more butter available at these stores is pretty simple. Over the last decade, demand, according to The Economist, and I'll try to remember to put a graphic here that shows this, has increased for natural plant oils, or natural oils in general, natural fats. And butter is the quintessential natural fat. I don't think this is a coincidence, it's also in the last decade that ketogenic diets have really taken off. And what do ketogenic diets usually promote? For the most part, eating whole foods. And so if you are a veteran of keto, you've probably seen videos by, Thomas DeLauer and other guys like that before the carnivore diet became almost mainstream in these spaces, where butter was promoted over artificial fats. And if you weren't eating butter, then it would be coconut oil or avocado oil if you could get a good one. Always put an asterisk next to avocado oil. There's a lot of controversies in there, as it's discovered that a lot of avocado oils just aren't avocado oil at all, and Some of the ones that are avocado oil are rancid. Same is true for olive oil too, which is one of the reasons why carnivores simply generally avoid them, is because they're not, even setting aside the plant oil versus an entirely animal diet, a lot of times you're not getting what you pay for. That's just a simple thing. But this is where it comes from, right? The growing presence of keto and low-carb dieting and a return to natural foods in the broader American and Western diets. That's a good thing. But now we see companies starting to respond to this market pressure. And it's and not just by offering more animal-based fats, butter and tallow and things. I mean, that's another subject. You go down like the more like shelf-stable fat aisles, where the vegetable oils and things are, and you might find jars of beef tallow and lard and duck fat and all sorts of other wonderful things. Sometime go check those aisles out. You will be surprised you may be surprised what you find. If you don't want to take the time to make tallow, I'd make my own tallow usually, but if you don't want to do that, you can buy tallow at the grocery store. It's there. You can buy duck fat. It's available. And it's in relatively shelf-stable forms, at least till you open the container. Then read the label and see if you need to refrigerate it or not. But in general, this is a response from basic market pressures. There's another response, though, also, and that's because plant fats are cheaper to make than animal fats. Because it's not that there's a shortage of beef tallow out there. There isn't. It's just that there's a lot of industrial uses for every single part of the cow. Not a single part of the cow goes to waste, not in any meaningful sense. When it goes for processing, there's a whole host of industrial uses for it, including the tallow for things beyond just food. And this is where you start to run into some problems. So, for example, the market has responded with things called plant butters. Look, butter is a byproduct of dairy. You do certain things to dairy, you agitate it in certain ways, and it causes the fat to separate from a lot of the liquid, and then you do certain things with it, and boom, you get butter. It's not complicated. Ancestors have been making butter all across the world, really, in some form or another, since the dawn of time, basically. And plants were never really used for that. And we're not talking like peanut butters here, okay, or almond butter. We're talking plant butter. And this is my favorite example of this. Country Crock, bringing them back into this, the world's probably most well-known manufacturer of margarine, has brought to the fore, to make up for their lost profits in the reestablishment of animal fats in the market, plant butter. My favorite thing about this, when you read their website on it, it says, features olive oil or avocado oil, depending which variety you buy. The word features is carefully chosen because this is not olive oil butter or almond or avocado oil butter. You should be worried anyway when these oils, which are naturally, once you actually get them from the plant, are in a liquid, how they would make them solid anyway. That's a basic question. But these are essentially marginally healthier versions of margarine because they still contain seed oils in them, cottonseed oil, as well as palm oil and some other things that you probably don't really want to eat, but they are not actual butter. This is just a less evil version of margarine. Now, if you're on a ketogenic diet and you decide you're not that worried about small amounts of cottonseed oil, well, I can't say you should try this because I can't say that. Just stick to animal fats, please. And if you're going to consume plant fats, pay the extra money for a good avocado oil or a good, probably imported from Sicily or mainland Italy or somewhere in the Middle East, olive oil. Pay the extra money for the good stuff if you're going to consume that stuff. But otherwise, I do a carnivore diet, so I'm going to tell you most of the time, in fact, all the time, stick with butter, ghee, tallow, lard. Even like pasture-raised chicken fats can be better than most plant oils. Eat that stuff, and your body will thank you for it. But these plant butters, they're not real butter. But have you noticed the rise of butter? Again, the return of butter probably to its rightful place in the market. I'm curious if you've noticed that over the years, the butter taking up more and more space in the dairy aisle. Let me know if you've seen that or if you think I'm just wrong. Let me know in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't, it does help. So does sharing this on social media, that helps too. I'm Anthony Stine, Practical Carnivore. Thanks for your time.